Right, let's go. Let's go. Hi. I finished reading The Girls by Emma Cline in December. It was the last book I read of 2016 before I started reading Swing Time. I haven't quite finished that yet, but I thought I'd talk today about The Girls because I had a lot of feelings and thoughts straight after finishing it, so I kind of wanted to talk about them. So let's just start with the book itself. The book is focused on Evie Boyd, who is a young teenage girl in 1969, and she gets involved with a group of girls who live on a ranch, and it basically documents what they get up to in that period of that summer and the fallout from that, and it kind of also deals with Evie Boyd in the present day. There are two voices throughout this story. One is the teenage Evie and one is the older Evie. This book raised a lot of feelings of nostalgia for my own teenage summers. Even though I wasn't doing the kind of things by any means that they were doing in this book, there was still the same kind of feelings behind a lot of the things that I was doing. I think I recognised characters from this story in some of the people I spent my teenage summers with, and obviously not to the extent of living in a ranch, not to the extent of leading a cult, but there are certain personality traits that you can really see. It was very difficult for me to read this book in some parts because it was very real to me. The kind of peer pressure that goes on and the kind of things that are expected from you as a teenage girl that are kind of way beyond your years in a way, even though you don't want to acknowledge they are. A very similar feeling is in this book when Evie describes certain situations she's put through or that she goes into, and I think she realises that more and more as the book continues, but then obviously the problem is dealing with the fact that you recognise that something is wrong, and how do you reconcile that with yourself. It deals a lot with teenagers and with fitting into a group and with feeling like you don't quite belong somewhere and being willing to do so much to fit into that group that you are at the mercy of that group in a way, and how people can have the kind of personality and the kind of charm that makes you want to do things for them, but at the same time you realise that they're not the right thing to do, and how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that without getting thrown out of a group that you want to belong in? So I thought all of that was handled quite well in this book. The amount of distance that you keep from the actual story and the amount of distance that the narrator keeps from the story, there is a certain amount of otherness about her inclusion in the group, and that helps you as a reader to distance yourself from glorifying that kind of behaviour and accepting that as a normal kind of behaviour, because you're seeing it from the outside as well as Evie. So I thought that was good. I think a lot of books stray too far into it so that it's very difficult to separate the moral from the actual story, and I think it sometimes gets muddled into glorifying this kind of behaviour, whereas here there was this sort of distance between it that still made it uncomfortable to read, but wasn't so uncomfortable that I felt like it was glorifying it, because I'm not up for that. This book was inspired by the story of Charles Manson, who around the 1960s had a sort of commune of a lot of young women. He led this cult-like group who then went and committed a series of 9 murders. So this story is kind of a similar feel to that. It's based around a man who leads this cult and the kind of things that he expects from them and how that relates to the society that they kind of live next to. I was hooked by this book in a weird kind of morbid way, because so many of the things that happen in this book are not pleasant to read about, but the way that they're written about just makes it really interesting and really like a character study. After I finished this book, I felt like I really needed to take time to let it sit with me and sort of coming to peace with my own teenage years and the things that I'd done that I wasn't proud of, the things that I'd done that perhaps were questionable. I'm making myself out to be like some kind of crazy rebel. I wasn't. There were certain areas of my teenage years that just came back to me when I was reading this book, and I felt like I had to make peace with them. This is definitely the kind of book that I'm going to read again. It was published very recently in 2016, so if anyone else has read it, I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially whether it gave you the same kind of nostalgic feeling that it gave me, or whether it was a new experience for you to read about, anything at all. Let me know in the comments, and until the next video, bye!